We keep talking about 4-day work weeks, but someone tell the South Korean president he's on a 6-day state visit to the United States. Long by modern standards. Let's focus on Wednesday. That's when President Yoon Yeol visited the White House. The day began with some heavy diplomacy, nuclear weapons, North Korea, the Indo-Pacific, really hard geopolitical stuff. But the day ended with a presidential concert. At the state dinner, President Yoon took the mic. He belted out an American favorite from the 1970s. It's called American Pie. Listen to this.
A long, long time ago, something touched me deep inside the day the music died.
If the Korean conflict ever comes to a sing-off, we know the result. Apparently, Yoon loved this song when he was in school, though clearly not music school. Jokes aside, Biden also had a gift for Yoon. He gave him this guitar. It was signed by Don McLean, the artist who composed American Pie.
Don McLean, you know?
Don McLean.
All in all, it was a lovely event, one that was tailor-made for television. Tuxedos, music, champagne toasts. This is diplomacy from a different era, long before virtual bilaterals became the norm. So that was the state dinner. Now let's rewind to the more important part of the day, the bilateral and the joint statement. This visit by President Yoon is important for 3 reasons. Number 1, the timing. The last state visit by a Korean leader was in the year 2011. It's been more than a decade. Number 2, the background. North Korea has been on a testing spree this year, 26 projectiles and 11 test launches. That is Pyongyang's record until March. And reason number 3, the China factor. South Korea is one of Washington's oldest and most important allies in Asia. It's also a key part of the global chip supply. Their market share is 18%, and the plan is to expand that footprint. Samsung is investing $230 billion to build 5 new chip plants. That's what America wants from Seoul. They design the chips, South Korea manufactures them. But what does South Korea want in return? In one word, security. Their neighbor to the north is a nuclear rogue state. It's ruled by an impulsive and reclusive dictator. So Seoul's priority is deterrence. How can they stop Kim Jong-un from using his nukes? On Wednesday, Biden unveiled a plan for that. He called it the Washington Declaration. He also said that an attack on South Korea would end Kim Jong-un's regime. Listen to this.
Nuclear attack by North Korea against the United States or its allies or partisans or partners is unacceptable and will result in the end of whatever regime were to take such an action.
Strong words from President Biden, but the question is, what specific steps would the U.S. take? President Yoon seemed confident of a nuclear response. He says America would use nukes if Pyongyang attacked.
Our 2 countries have agreed to immediate bilateral presidential consultations in the event of a North Korean nuclear attack and promised to respond swiftly, overwhelmingly, and decisively using the full force of the alliance, including U.S. nuclear weapons.
Let me explain in simple terms. Yoon believes America will use nuclear weapons if North Korea attacks them. It's called extended deterrence. I'll tell you what the problem with that is. North Korea has missiles that can reach American cities. So here's the question. Will Biden or any other US president sacrifice Los Angeles or San Diego or San Jose to defend Seoul? Unlikely, right? And that's the worry for South Korea. They're hoping that the Washington Declaration will help their case. 2 points stand out in this declaration. 1, the nuclear plan sharing. You see, the US military has a plan of action if North Korea attacks, like what assets to deploy, which cities to target. The idea is to share these plans with Seoul, also take their inputs while creating future plans. I know it doesn't sound like much, but think back to your high school days. Remember when everyone knew a rumor and you did not? Well, that's what Seoul feels like right now. Perhaps they won't after the Washington Declaration. The second part of this plan is deploying nuclear submarines to South Korea. It hasn't happened since 1981, and most experts agree that this is largely symbolic. Why is that? Because submarines have very long ranges. You don't really need to dock in South Korea to attack the North. You can do that from the open sea. Either way, the broad idea is to calm the nerves in South Korea, especially among ordinary people. Between 60 and 70% of all South Koreans want nuclear weapons, either their own or American ones, to be shared. President Biden has made it clear that he will not deploy nukes to the Korean peninsula. Instead, he is betting on the Washington Declaration. It may work in the short term, but in the long term, the Korean conflict needs a political solution. It requires North Korea to give up nuclear weapons. Will Kim Jong-un do that? From the looks of it, Joe Biden has not even asked. His reluctance to engage with Kim has left him with few options. He's been forced to share nuclear plans and send submarines to Seoul. We all know how Kim will see these moves. So banquets and signed guitars will not solve the Korean conflict. Only diplomacy will. Maybe Biden should put down the mic and pick up the phone.